Pre-trial. The key is to get on the offensive. Find other suspects. Start taking apart the prosecution's case before we even get to trial. His name is Oliver Gates, and he's an old college buddy of my dad's, recruited to rescue my crumbling legal defense. A short teddy bear of a man in square black-rimmed glasses and a crumpled shirt, he paces in the small interview room, oblivious to the specks of coffee stains on his novelty golf print tie. I watch, my heart sinking. He's soft-looking and warm, a million miles from Decker's cutthroat aggression or even Ellingham's snooty professional detachment. And right now, he's all I've got. There's Tate, that's something. Gates continues, checking his notes. The table is piled with them, loose-leaf and stuffed into cheap cardboard binders. I frown. I thought they dropped the investigation into him. They did. Gates nods. But even with his plea, we can cast some doubt, stir it up. And this one guy, lurking around. This is good stuff. My expression must be less than confident, because he pauses, exhaling. I know I'm behind, he adds, apologetic. And I'm not from some big fancy firm, like the other guy. But I'm getting up to speed on everything. I'll do my best, I promise. It's not you. I feel bad for letting my doubt show. I'm just tired of all of this. I thought. They told me everything would be okay, that they had a plan, and then. Quote. I trail off, feeling tears sting in the back of my throat as I bite back the words I can't bring myself to say. Then they all left. Ellingham quit. He's still representing Tate and the Dempseys, of course. He didn't even do it himself. He had his assistant call my dad to explain that it would be a conflict of interest, keeping me as a client. I guess we should have seen it coming, but it still hurt, yet another person walking away. Lamar and the gang are gone, Tate's gone too, and now my dad, back in Boston to try to raise the money for this new legal team, and to pay for all these flights and hotel fees that mount up every time he comes to see me. It's okay. Gates sits beside me, puts a hand, gentle on my shoulder. It's the first kind human contact I've had in weeks now, and I have to shrug it off, not because I don't want it, but because I need it too much. Did Dad say when he's coming back? I ask, swallowing back my emotion. For weeks now, I've had nothing but distant phone calls, with Dad's voice so harried and guilty down the line. It only makes me feel worse, to think what this is putting him through. He's trying. Gates looks sympathetic. But there's a lot to do. He's found a firm that has a branch in Amsterdam, he adds in a hopeful voice. We're talking all the time about how best to proceed, how this is all going to play out. It's a whole different legal system here. I nod. I'm asking around at the police department. The other guy in the room speaks up for the first time. He's younger, in his 20s, I guess, and dressed more casual in jeans and a shirt, dark hair cut conservatively over brown eyes. He's been taking notes this whole time, and I figure him for Gates' assistant, or some junior with his law firm. Word is, Decker isn't the most popular guy, he continues. I have to let out a bitter laugh at that. So maybe we'll find a source to give us the inside track on his investigation, find out why he got so fixated on you, and what he might have overlooked in the meantime. Good. Gates nods, making notes. Any word from the embassy? Some official support could really help us out right now. The guy shakes his head. I'm getting shut down at every level. Senator Warren must have got involved, or maybe the Dempseys. I shouldn't even be here, this is all unofficial. I look up, confused. But aren't you with him? I nod to Gates. They exchange a look. No, this is Lee Evans, a junior consul from the embassy. Gates explains. I introduced him when we met last week, remember? I don't. I'm sorry. I shake my head. I guess things are kind of a blur. ... Quote. No need to apologize, the Lee guy smiles at me. Gates's phone buzzes. This is my investigator now, I'll just be outside. He steps out, leaving me alone with Lee. Now that I'm paying attention, I can see he's cute, preppy, and full of concern. I can't imagine what you're going through in here, he says softly. I shrug, still wary. Are you sleeping okay? He checks. Can I bring you anything? Because we can get you some medication if you're still having problems. No, no more pills. I stop him. They make me too fuzzy, I fidget with my handcuffs. Even here, in the interview room inside the prison walls, with a guard outside the door, they won't take any chances. I look down at my chafed wrists and the nails have bitten bloody. I don't. ... I don't want to sleep anymore. He nods. There's silence, but it's not like with Ellingham, or any of the police, accusing and cold. This is warmer, understanding. You'll get through this, he says. You're strong. How would you know? I snap before I catch myself. I'm sorry, I know you're here to help, it's just... Quote. I'm just another stranger, I get it. Lee looks rueful. You must be sick of us by now. No, I reply after a moment. It's better you're here than not. Gates comes back into the room. Visiting hours are almost over. We should get going. Okay. I stand awkwardly, watching them pack all the paperwork away. Will you be back tomorrow? We have a lot of files to go through. Quote. Gates looks torn, so I keep my voice bright. It's okay. It's actually a good thing. Decker can't question me without you or a lawyer around. I bet he's going crazy out there, having to leave me alone. You shouldn't joke, Lee warns me quietly. From what I've heard, he's a dangerous man. You think I don't know that? I turn to stare at him. I'm trying, okay? We know, Gates soothes me. You're doing great. Here. He reaches into his canvas bag. Your dad sent this to give to you. I take the envelope. Inside, there's a photo of the two of us from Christmas a couple of years ago. We're wearing the dorky matching holiday sweaters my mom bought for us, smiling into the camera in front of the tree. I love you. Everything will be okay, trust me. I say my goodbyes to Gates and Lee, watching through the bars as they head down the hallway and out of sight, to freedom. Everything will be okay. Trust me. I don't know how many times he said that to me, not just here in prison but my whole life. When I was scared for the first day of school, or stressed about a big test,
When I fell off my bike in 6th grade and split my lip.
When my mom got sick. I always believed him. He's my father. He wouldn't lie to me. He's a grown-up. He knows the truth. But now I see his promises for what they really are, hopeful prayers, a mantra he says as much to reassure himself as me. He can't fix this, not even close. I drift back through the prison to the rec room. Without Decker haunting my everyday with his relentless questions, there's nothing to fill the time except my own black thoughts. The other women still look at me suspiciously and turn away before they talk, but even if one of them did take pity and try to make conversation, I don't know what I would say. They spend their days watching TV or repeating foreign language tapes, reading from old-school textbooks, mouthing along with the words. We return now to our main story of the night, the brutal murder of Elise Warren. I freeze. They tell me not to watch any of the coverage, but I can't help taking 2 steps toward the small TV set up in the corner of the room. An innocent spring break, ripped apart by an unspeakable crime. A jealous friend, with a history of violence and wild partying. The anchor is blonde and middle-aged, but hiding it under a layer of tanned makeup and a helmet of spray-stiff hair. It's Clara Rose, the biggest name in salacious true crime TV. I used to channel hop past her show, endless exposés of dead fiancés, kidnapped children, and murderous cheating husbands. Now it's my own photo up on screen, the mug shot from the police station, the night Decker formally arrested me. As Elise Warren's family and friends still mourn her brutal stabbing, we go behind the scenes to reveal the truth about her accuser-murderer, Anna Chevalier. What could have driven this straight-a schoolgirl to the edge? Clara leans into the camera across her news desk, wide-eyed with fake dismay. Stay tuned after the break, when we bring you psychologist reports and exclusive interviews with the friends who knew her best. I feel the eyes of the other women watching me. I know I should walk away, but I can't. My feet stayed glued to their spot, my eyes fixed on the small screen. I stay. Clara Rose show transcript. Clara, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in, I'm Clara Rose. Tonight, we go inside the crime that has rocked the island paradise of Aruba, the brutal murder of 17-year-old Elise Warren, daughter of former Massachusetts State Senator Charles Warren, who recently stepped down from his post, and likely gubernatorial run, to spend time with his family during this horrible tragedy. Video clip. Warren spokesperson. The Warren family appreciates all the support, and they ask for privacy as they deal with this matter. End video clip. Clara. Tonight, we reveal the police investigation into Elise's accused murderer, her former friend Anna Chevalier. Just who is the girl charged with such an unspeakable crime? We'll talk to psychologists and friends, and discover what could have driven her to the brink. But first we go live to our correspondent in Aruba for on-the-ground updates on the investigation. Marley. Yes, Clara, hi. Clara. What can you tell us about the situation there, Marley? We're hearing here about new developments, and possible new evidence in the case. Marley. That's right, Clara. Today, inside leaks from the police department have confirmed what we've been hearing in other reports, that there were blood stains in the hallway of the apartment that apparently went unnoticed by Anna and her boyfriend, Tate, for hours on the day of the murder. Clara. We're seeing the crime scene photos now. Yes, on screen, you can see the bedroom where Elise breathed her final breaths. I have to apologize for the disturbing images, folks, that's an awful lot of blood, but we can see here just how violent the attack was. Marley. Violent, and frenzied, frenzied, is what I'm hearing from police sources. Elise clearly struggled, fighting her attacker, but was stabbed a total of 13 times, the autopsy report confirms. Clara. 13 times. And this blood, yes, we can see on screen now, photos from the hallway of the beach house where Elise and her friends were staying. There are blood stains on the tile, visible in several places in the hallway, leading away from the victim's bedroom toward the front door. Marley. That's right, Clara. And it's these bloodstains that police here closed in on as prime evidence in the murder charges against Anna Chevalier. In her interrogations, Anna has supposedly denied seeing the blood, or even that it was there at all. Clara. Well, I don't know how anyone can miss those marks. As you can see, the smears are on the tile and up the wall by the door. So it will be the defense's argument that the blood was tracked out later? Marley. Yes, I'm guessing that will be a major defense. These crime scene photos weren't taken until several hours after the body was discovered, and by that time, of course, you would have had paramedics and police, a whole group of people going in and out of the room. ... Clara. But the detectives there. ... I know that investigation is being led by a Klaus Decker. Marley. Decker, that's right. He'll be arguing, and this is something I've heard from several sources within the police department. Their case is that the blood was there in the hallway all along, that saying she didn't see it is suspicious, a sign of guilt. And with the fingerprints. Clara. The fingerprints on the bloody knife, used to stab Elise. A 5-inch blade. From the kitchen, we don't have photos of the murder weapon, but I'm showing you a similar model up on screen now. Marley. Exactly. We heard just a few weeks ago about this bombshell evidence, with the knife and the fingerprints, and I don't see how you can get around this in court. These are serious questions the defense will have to deal with if Anna is going to have any hope of pleading innocent. Clara. And Anna is in custody right now, in the prison, awaiting trial. Marley. That's right. You can see behind me, here, the Aruba Correctional Institute where Anna has been held for the last 5 months now. It's a small prison, they house the male and female inmates in separate wings. Clara. And what other kinds of criminals will she be living with? Aruba isn't known for its crime. Marley. No, most prisoners will be here on smaller charges, drug trafficking, petty theft, that kind of thing. Murder is rare here, and sentiment on the island is that this is very much an outside crime, perpetrated by an outsider. Clara. Thanks, Marley, and we'll be checking back in with Marley tomorrow for all the latest breaking news in the investigation. Now, after the break, shocking new photos of Anna in prison, and we chat with her friend, Akshay Kundra, who discovered Elise's body that night. We'll be right back. Commercial break. Clara. Welcome back. I'm Clara Rose, with a special Elise Warren murder edition of The Clara Rose Show. We've seen the shocking crime scene photos and evidence against Anna, Elise's former friend. Now the authorities on Aruba have released photos of the murder suspect in prison. I'm joined by Dr. Martin Holt, a specialist in psychopathic killers, and the author of the true crime book, Beautiful Evil, the Kayla Chris story. Now, Martin, let's take a look at these photos just released. I guess there's been speculation about Anna's treatment in prison, and this is the Aruban authorities' attempt to counter those concerns. ... Well, she looks just fine to me. Martin. Indeed. These are candid photos of Anna about her daily routine in the prison. She looks relaxed, some might even say carefree. She takes a walk in the exercise yard, sits for lunch. In some of these shots, you can even see her smiling, which... Clara. I don't know about you, but that seems kind of off to me. Martin. Exactly. In any normal person, you'd see signs of stress, fear, exhaustion. Let's remember, she's lost her best friend to a brutal murder, now she's locked up awaiting trial. If that were you or me, we'd be a wreck, but Anna looks like this is just an ordinary day at the mall. Clara. And that's a warning sign to you? Martin. Absolutely. What you have to understand is that psychopaths and sociopaths, their brains are wired differently. They lack empathy, they lack understanding, they don't care about causing pain and suffering. They are essentially incapable of reacting to situations the way a normal person would. Clara. And Anna, here, this isn't a normal reaction to being locked up in prison. Martin. Not at all. And if we look back to the photo of Anna on the balcony just hours after Elise's body was discovered, again, she looks happy, totally unconcerned. Clara. Yes, that photo. I don't know about you, but that gives me the creeps. I think, when we saw that photo, we all thought, hang on, something isn't right here. It was the first sign. Martin. Right, and these warning signs, they're always there, but the tragedy is that we don't notice until it's too late. Clara. Thanks, Martin. That's Martin Holt there, author of Beautiful Evil, the Kayla Chris story, in stores now. And joining me in the studio after the break, someone who can talk to us about these early warning signs, who was there on the island for the murder, classmate and friend Akshay Kundra. Don't go anywhere. Commercial break. Clara. I'm Clara Rose, welcome back. Tonight, the Elise Warren murder, the truth about prime suspect, accused murderer Anna Chevalier. Before the break, we talked to acclaimed psychologist and true crime author Martin Holt about Anna's psychopathic tendencies. Now I'm joined here in the studio by a friend and classmate of the suspect, Akshay Kundra. Welcome back, Akshay. Akshay. I'm happy to be here, Clara. Clara. We just heard disturbing reports from Dr. Holt about these new photos and Anna's state of mind. Were the warning signs there for you? Akshay. Sure. I mean, looking back, it's a tragedy we didn't see this coming. Clara. But why not? If the warning signs were there, then why didn't anyone say anything? Why was this unstable, possibly violent girl allowed to just walk around? I mean, even you yourself considered her a friend. Akshay. We all did. And this is one of those things. In hindsight, it's clear, but in the moment. You've got to understand, Anna is a really smart girl. She would have known how to keep all of this under wraps. On the surface, she seemed like just an ordinary girl. We trusted her, you know, she was our friend. Clara. She was Elise's friend. Akshay. Right. And that's something we're all going to have to live with, that we never saw. I mean, she was obsessed with Elise, that was clear. Clara. Tell us about this obsession. Akshay. They were always together, you couldn't get them apart. She was new to our school, junior year, and she just kind of latched on to Elise. She took her away from all of her other friends, and I think Elise found it suffocating, you know, and eventually she started pulling away, trying to get some distance. That's when we started hanging out, that summer. It was like she needed other people around, to keep Anna at arm's length. Clara. Because Elise was a good girl, is what I'm hearing. Straight as, drama club, student government, and then Anna comes along. Akshay. Yeah, she pretty much cut Elise off from all of that. She was a bad influence, we all knew that. They were drinking, I know that Anna took pills sometimes. Clara. You saw this? Drug use? Akshay. Yes, a couple of times, but I know it happened more. And Elise went along with it. I guess she felt the pressure, or maybe she was worried about what Anna would do. Clara. Did she ever seem scared to you? Scared of what Anna would do if she ended the friendship? Akshay. I mean, no, not as such, but I don't know what was going on inside. Maybe she didn't feel like she could tell us, or maybe she never thought Anna would do something like this. Clara. To all appearances, Anna seemed normal. Akshay. Right. Clara. And in the days leading up to the murder, how did the girls seem to you? We've heard a lot about this supposed affair. Tate Dempsey, son of prominent Boston investment banker, Richard Dempsey, we've heard he was hooking up with Elise behind the accused's back. Is this what drove Anna to the edge, you think? Akshay. Yeah. I mean, to find out something like that. Clara. But according to the police investigation, they wonder if Anna knew all along, if, instead of this being a crime of passion, which, in case you don't know, can be used as a defense, you know, temporary insanity, well, they're saying, maybe this wasn't a shock. Maybe Anna knew, for who knows how long, and maybe she planned it. Maybe she came to Aruba with the full intent of getting Elise alone, away from the rest of you, and killing her. Akshay. I mean, that's awful, to think, if it's true. There was no sign of it, she seemed normal, just having fun, hanging out, you know? Clara. So you don't think she knew? Akshay. If she did, then she hid it really well, acting like nothing was wrong. Clara. Which could, in fact, be another one of those warning signs. Dr. Holt? Martin. Hi, Clara. Yes, from what you're saying, this could be more evidence about her damaged mental state. To plan a murder in this kind of premeditated fashion takes us away from a jealous frenzy and into the territory of a cold-blooded killer. It's a big difference, especially if, down the line, we come to a murder versus a manslaughter charge, or some kind of plea bargain in the trial. Clara. Cold-blooded killer, there you have it, people. These are questions I'm sure the police on the island will be following very closely. Was it rage? Was it planned? I don't know about you, but the more I'm seeing of this girl, the more. I guess damaged is the only word for it. Damaged and dangerous. All right, that's all for tonight. Stay tuned for the news on the hour with Dave and Aaron, and coming up tomorrow, more on the Elise Warren murder, the local trader who could have seen everything, a witness disappears. Could he hold the key to the truth? Join us tomorrow here on KCFX, your destination for news and sport. Back. The show cuts to commercial again. This time, every woman in the room is staring at me. I try to remind myself how to breathe. I knew it was bad out there. Even locked up, I've seen glimpses of newspapers and TV news. It wasn't as if I thought everyone would be lined up, protesting my innocence, but still, Clara's show takes my breath away. I thought it would be more balanced. Isn't that what the news is supposed to do? Present both sides of the story, fairly, not jump to conclusions based on leaked information and biased statements? We're still months away from the trial, Even Ellingham swore they didn't have enough evidence to convict, so where's the support? Some kind of outcry about my arrest? Instead, they showed nothing on my side, no mention of Juan, or Tate's lies and cheating, the balcony issue, or all the problems with the crime scene. Nothing, not one hint I might be innocent in all of this. They assume I'm guilty, and they can't wait to see me burn. Killer. The voice comes from behind me, loud and clear. I turn. One of the other inmates is lounging back on a chair, her legs draped wide.
I've seen her before, in the mess hall, or the yard.
She's short and bulky, in her early 20s, maybe, with dark tattoos dancing across her collarbone, hair braided in tight cornrows that swing to her shoulders. The girl gives me a sly smile, eyes dark as her stare meets mine, unflinching and direct. She says it again, with a curl of amusement to her lips. Killer. I drop my eyes and start to walk away, heading back toward the far doors, but the girl uncoils herself from her seat and moves to casually block my path. Where you going, killer? She asks, folding her arms. My pulse kicks. I try to sidestep, still looking down. She mirrors, blocking me. I feel a shiver of fear. I don't want any trouble, I tell her softly, holding my palms out, like surrender. I glance quickly around the room, but the guard who usually loiters by the doors is nowhere to be seen. The other inmates start to circle, their body language snapping alert. My fear shifts to panic. I've seen this before, the lunchroom fights and exercise yard beatdowns. The women here like to brawl, violent and vicious, and I've watched from a distance how quickly the trouble in here flares, like everyone's a powder keg, waiting for a spark to go up in flames. I've spent every day so careful not to catch someone's eye or accidentally jostle them in the hall. Head down, eyes down, just keep moving, stay out of trouble. But now trouble is here, determination clear on her face in front of me. It's okay, I say again, backing up. I just have to hold her off until the guard gets back. Please. Please? The girl repeats, smirking. She turns to the circle. Killer's got manners. Please and thank you. Yes, ma'am. She turns back to me. So, did you ask your girl permission before you slit her throat? I look away, knowing it's useless even as I mutter the words. I didn't kill her. No? So what are you doing in here? The girl's sneer slips, becomes something cruel and full of anger. I seen you, walking round like you're so much better than us. You think we don't know? Huh? She gets closer. We're all the same in here, killer. I didn't do it. I hear my own voice, stronger, even before I register the words are coming from my mouth. It's a mistake. There's a pause, so electric I can hear my blood pounding, and then the girl lunges at me. I barely have time to get my hands up in defense before her body is on mine and she's tearing at my hair, clawing at my face. We tumble to the floor as yells go up from the crowd. I manage to deflect her blows, rolling out from underneath her, gasping for breath, but then she's coming at me again, her face twisted, violence in her eyes like I've never seen before. For all of Elise's and my adventures in the dark city streets, I haven't come close to violence, a physical threat of any kind. They gave us self-defense classes in gym freshman year, stayed, awkward routines where we'd carefully lunge at each other and sidestep in a polite ballet, but this is a world away from the neat choreography, a vicious assault, too quick to think, too fast to do anything but grapple and claw, rolling on the hard tile floor as the other inmates holler and howl, flinching as her blows hit home, blood sharp like metal in my mouth. The girl drives her elbow into my stomach, making me gulp for air. Her face is lit up, breathless and bright, nose bloody from one of my desperate blocks. She grins through the smear of scarlet, raising her fist again, ready to smash it down into my face, and from some distant place, I realize, she's enjoying this. She likes it. The fight, the pain, the struggle. Her joy is her power. I snap. Ducking to the side, I turn to block her fist, then bring my elbow sweeping up in a glorious arc that cracks against her face. Her head snaps back, her momentum lost, and I pull myself up, rolling so she's trapped underneath me, still dazed. I slam my elbow down against her face, her throat, her chest, again and again. There's screaming, sharp and grotesque, but the roars of the crowd recede like the waves until I can't hear anything but my own drumming heartbeat and the dull thud of bone on tile as her head cracks back, blood spilling on the pale floor like blossoms in the snow. It's almost beautiful, but I don't care. I'm not here anymore, I'm not anywhere, all I am is sheer, pure rage and fists and skin. I'm still swinging when they pull me off her, strong arms grabbing at me, slamming me to the floor. The screaming won't stop, it echoes through the room long after they carry the other girl out. It's not until they come at me with the syringe that I realize, the screaming voice is my own. Then there's nothing but black. Winter. Where have you been? The voice startles me in the dark. I flip on the living room lights and find Elise waiting on the couch. Elise? I stare at her, startled. She's still in her uniform, neat plaid skirt and blazer. What are you? I waited for you, Elise says, her expression bland and unreadable. Outside school, like we said. Oh shit. I feel a flush of shame. I'm sorry, I forgot. ... We skipped study hall, I explain awkwardly, and went back to Tate's. I can tell, Elise says quietly, it's written all over you. I flush. I'm still breathless from the hours Tate and I spent together, wrapped up in his old quilted comforter and each other. It's no wonder she can see, when I still feel Tate's hands on me, the burning path across my body. I called. Elise's voice twists, bitter. I left you a ton of messages. And then I thought, maybe something happened, with your mom, so I came. ... She stops. Your dad let me in. My phone died, I never got the messages, I swear. I take a few steps forward, toward the couch. I am so sorry. I completely forgot. It's awful of me, I know. What can I do? You want to order pizza? I was going to just do homework, but we could study together for that test tomorrow, or watch a movie, or anything you like. I'm babbling, I know, but there's something so unnerving about her expression, perfectly detached. Elise? I ask again, nervous. I fucked up, I'm sorry. The bland look slips, and Elise giggles, but it's not a happy sound, there's something twisted about it. Do you know what it felt like, just waiting for you? I sat there for an hour, until everyone was gone. She hugs herself, looking painfully young for a moment. I was worried, thinking about everything that could have happened. An accident, or a car crash, or your mom. ... She shakes her head, her expression hardening. And all that time, you were off fucking him. I flinch. Don't. Don't what? Elise leaps up, and I see her face clearer, the out-of-focus smudge to her gaze. It's the truth, isn't it? That's all you do these days, hump away like a pair of fucking rabbits. She laughs, bitter. And you were always such a good girl. Who would have thought you'd turn out to be such a slut? Well, how was it? She demands, grabbing my arm. Go ahead, tell me everything. Is he good? Does he make you come? I reel back from her harsh words and the faint slur in her voice. You're drunk. BZZ. Wrong. Guess again. Elise? My heart skips. I look closer. What did you take? Oh God, are you okay? Do I need to call someone? Relax. She cuts me off, rolling her eyes. Don't look at me like that. Just a couple of my mom's pills. Prescription. It's all good. A couple? I demand, still panicked. Cross my heart and hope to die. Elise draws an X over her chest, then giggles again. Irony appreciated, of course. It's not funny. I exhale, but the panic doesn't dissolve, it just hardens into something more uncertain, a dark edge that sends a chill down my spine. I watch as Elise wanders over to the bar in the corner and lifts the stopper from the cut glass bottle of my dad's scotch. Seriously, Lise, put that down. Why? She dangles the bottle from her fingertips. Not up for a drink? You're already wasted. Not wasted enough. I go over to take the bottle from her hand, but she pulls away and lifts it to her lips to gulp. I watch, feeling helpless. This is scaring me, the sudden quicksilver of her moods. She doesn't mess around with drugs. We drink, sure, and even smoke some weed with Chelsea sometimes, but this is something new, and nothing good. Talk to me, I beg. What's going on? I told you. She spins in a slow circle, away from me. I waited. Fine, I screwed up, I'm sorry. I hold my hands up, as if in surrender. What can I do to make it up to you? I ask, desperation clear in my voice. Anything you want, I promise. Don't you get it? She yells, her voice loud in the still of the dark house. Sorry doesn't matter. Not if you love him more. There's silence. Elise. I whisper. She meets my eyes, defiant and wounded. It was us, she says. You and me. It still is. But you love him more. No, I tell her, but she just looks away. You should see your face when the two of you are together. Elise swallows, giving me a sad little smile. It's like he's your whole world. He's my boyfriend. So? She yells. I'm your best friend. Right, I yell back. My friend. So why can't you just be happy for me? Happy you're throwing me away for some asshole who's going to dump you a month from now? Elise is wild and furious. Like I'm fucking disposable? Do you even remember what you said to me? It was us, together, before anything. We still are. No. She shakes her head. Not since you gave it all to him. I never thought you'd do this to me, that you'd be such a shallow slut. Elise whirls around and hurls the bottle at me with a cry. I leap back as it shatters against the wall, dark liquid splashing, shards of glass smashing like crystals on the floor around me. What are you doing? I cry, shocked. You chose this. She sobs. You ruined everything. Fear chills me, sharp and wild. I don't care about the glass or the mess, or anything but the finality in her tone. Like it's the end. No, I say, shaking my head against the unthinkable. Nothing's ruined. I'm with him, and we're still the same as we ever were, I promise. I don't believe you. But it's true. I don't know what to do to make her listen. She's not listening. Panic floods me. I grab her shoulders and shake her, violent with desperation. It's still you and me, it'll always be you and me. Stop it. Elise cries, but I don't. I keep holding tight until she shoves me away hard enough to send me flying to the ground among the shattered glass. I sit up, catching my breath. There's a dull pain in the back of my head, where it cracked against the floor. Anna. Elise takes a step toward me, her eyes wide. Oh God, I didn't mean. ... Quote. I pull myself up by the couch. For a moment, we're suspended there, across the room from each other. Eyes locked, a canyon of fierce emotion between us. Then there's a noise from the stairs. Elise looks away, quickly grabbing the throw from the back of the couch and tossing it to the floor, so that when my dad appears in the doorway, the mess is blocked from view. Is everything okay? My dad looks between us, confused. I thought I heard something. Fine, Mr. Chevalier. Elise forces a smile. I was just showing Anna a video on my phone. Oh, okay. Dad blinks. He's got that dazed expression on his face, like he's still gone off in whatever financial documents he was buried in. Do you want to stay for dinner? No, thank you. I have to go. Okay, he turns to me. Call for takeout whenever you're ready to eat. Sure, Dad, I say nervously, but he barely gives us another glance, just drifts back upstairs. Elise waits until he's gone, then pushes past me, out into the foyer. I trail after her. Elise. Wait a second, please. She turns, her face set, then her expression slips. She gasps. You're bleeding. I look down. My hand is cut, welling bright red. It's fine, I say quickly. I can't feel a thing. Elise backs away. I can't. ... I can't be here. Wait. I follow her out onto the front steps. Let me take you home, at least. You shouldn't be out there like this. I reach for her, but she flinches away. Elise? My voice breaks. I'll see you tomorrow, she says quickly, her gaze still fixed on my bloody hand. Then she bolts. I listen as her footsteps are swallowed up by the night, remembering the knife edge to her gaze, something damaged and hard. Fear shivers through me. I can't lose her, not even a little. Tate has pulled me in and wrapped me up in this new kind of love, but I'm hers, too. I'll always be hers. If I have to choose. ... Elise. I call after her, yelling. Miles and miles. Do you hear me? My voice echoes out into the dark. Miles and fucking miles. But there's only silence. I wait on the steps until I'm frozen through, but she doesn't come back. We wrecked it, I realize, and it feels like my heart splits wide open. Something was ripped apart and bared to the world tonight, and we can't ever take it back. She's gone. At last I turn and walk slowly back into the warm, bright safety of the house. 3 weeks later, my mother is dead. Evidence Material 102, Anna Chevalier English Assignment, Junior Class. My words are a weapon. They can cut you like glass. Or they can smooth and soothe over gaps and cracks, dripping honey. Sweet and safe. They can gouge out your heart. Carve my name into your fair skin. Write verses in your blood. Be careful what you say, my friend. My words are my greatest weapon of all. Trial. And the defendant wrote this poem? Silence. Decker glares. Miss Day, please. You're under oath. Chelsea looks at me across the courtroom. I haven't seen her since my arrest. Her hair is shorter now, the beachy waves and even brown, neat and preppy. She used to be loud and languid, always laughing. Now her expression is apologetic and full of regret. Yes, she says quietly. In English class, beginning of senior year. And this wasn't the only violent thing she wrote, was it? I feel Gates inhale a sharp breath beside me. Again, Chelsea is silent. She looks down, toying with the woven bracelets she has still tied around her wrist, the colorful strands that she and I and Elise all bought at a store in Boston together, knotting them tightly to overlap. Judge Von Koppel leans over. Please answer the question. Chelsea glances up, reluctant. No, she wrote other things, for class. We all did. Like this. Decker lifts a plastic-covered sheet between his thumb and forefinger. Evidence Item 217, a short story written by the defendant, describing the murder of a teenage girl. It was an assignment, Chelsea says quickly. A college girl got shot, in the neighborhood. It was a big deal, everyone was talking about it, so our teacher had us write the stories about it. I did one, Elise did too. Everyone. But you could choose, could you not, whether to write from the perspective of the victim or the murderer? Decker tilts his head, waiting. Chelsea exhales. Yes. And Miss Chevalier was the only girl to write from the perspective of the killer. Boys did too, Chelsea replies. Half the class. And did the defendant tell you why she chose to take on the killer's role? Chelsea bites her lip, looking over at me again. She said, ... quote. Her voice trails into a whisper. Louder, please. Another reluctant sigh. She said she liked putting herself in his shoes. Imagining how it would feel to have that kind of power over someone, to end their life. But it wasn't real, she protests. It was writing, that was the whole point. Our teacher always told us to get out of our own minds, and imagine being somebody else. But the defendant had a fascination for violent imagery even out of class. Decker clicks a photo up on the display, the cover of my science lab binder. She copied the words to several songs, some would even say obsessively writing the same lyrics over and over. Let me quote for you. I took a knife and cut out her eye, he reads, voice dramatic in the still of the courtroom. I'll cut your little heart out because you made me cry. That's a song by one of the defendant's favorite musicians, Florence and the Machine. They told me not to register any reaction to his questions, but I can't help shaking my head in disbelief. The photos were bad enough, pulled at random from our online profiles, ripped from any context or meaning, but this. I'd always thought trials were about evidence and witnesses, but those are somebody else's words that I scrawled on my notebook during a boring class, and now he's holding them up as some kind of proof for my violent urges. Why doesn't he go further, and pull up my DVR records and all the horror movies I used to watch, curled tightly against Tate on the living room couch? Why not go through my bookcase for every crime novel he can find? Wouldn't we all look guilty, if someone searched hard enough? Relax. I feel a hand on my arm and look over to find Gates leaning over. You're scowling, he murmurs, too quiet for anyone else to hear. He's grasping at straws. If he had any hard evidence, he'd be presenting it, but he doesn't. Deep breaths, remember? Of course I remember, they've only drilled it into me every day for weeks now. But Gates is watching me intently, so I inhale a short breath and force my face into something I hope resembles a relaxed expression. I can't let the judge see that I'm angry, I can't let her see that I feel anything at all about Decker's lies. Or what about these submissions to the school literary magazine? Decker is still reading aloud from the snapshots of my binder covers and English class assignments. Objection. Gates rises. Does the prosecutor have any more questions for the witness, or is he just treating us to a public poetry reading? Yes, please do stick to questioning. Judge Von Koppel agrees with an icy smile. I believe we've heard enough of the graffiti. Decker glares, then turns back to Chelsea. On the days before the murder, did you notice any friction between Miss Warren and the defendant? No, Chelsea says. They were great. Happy. Are you sure? No fighting, disagreements? I just said. She glares back at him, I don't know why you're even doing this. Anna loved Elise. We all did. She would never do anything to hurt her. She searches for me again in the courtroom. Our eyes meet, and I give her a tiny nod. It's okay. I know she doesn't want to be here, that Decker's forcing her up there, to try to slander me. She can't help it any more than I can help the things he's saying about me. So you never noticed any jealousy from the defendant? No. Never saw her act in any violent or uncontrollable ways. No, Nev. Chelsea suddenly stops. She looks over at me, panicked. Decker catches the gaze. He brightens. You did? Quote. Chelsea's expression is conflicted. Gates tugs my sleeve again. What's going on? He whispers. I shrug. I don't know. Decker clears his throat. Miss Day? Did you ever see the defendant have any violent or angry outbursts? Chelsea hesitates again, then nods. What happened? Decker's whole body is alert, his face expectant. Quote. Chelsea swallows, looking nervous. It was during art class, at school. I went to get something from my locker, and I saw her in the hallway, with Elise. With the victim? Decker's voice is so gleeful, it turns my stomach. She nods again. Anna was. She was screaming, and yelling. Elise tried to calm her down, but Anna. She grabbed the display, I think it was something for Environment Week. She just grabbed the whole thing and began tearing it apart. I exhale. Now I know what this is about. I start scribbling a note to Gates as Decker continues his victorious questions. Did you hear what they were saying? Why they were fighting? No, I didn't think I should go over. Chelsea looks awkward. I mean, she was so mad. In a violent rage. Decker draws the words out with satisfaction. Yes. And what happened next? Chelsea shrugs. Elise tried to calm her down, but Anna threw her off. The defendant physically assaulted the victim? No. Chelsea stops. I mean, it wasn't like that. She just pushed her away and took off. Decker beams. No further questions. He steps back to his table, and I pass the note to Gates. He glances over it, then nods, rising to approach the witness stand with a confident saunter. Miss Day, when was this altercation you witnessed? She pauses, thinking. Before Christmas break. Does December 10th sound about right? Gates suggests. Yeah. I mean, I think so. Did you know about Anna's mother? He asks. You mean, that she was sick? Chelsea nods. She didn't like to talk about it, but, yeah. Elise filled us in, so we wouldn't say the wrong thing. Objection, relevance? Decker yells. Gates turns to the judge. The defendant's mother had breast cancer, he explains, that recurred in the fall of last year. She nods. Continue. Gates turns back to Chelsea. So you weren't aware of the state of her mother's disease or how Anna was coping? No, not really. Chelsea sends me a look. She was pretty tough about that stuff. She didn't like to bring us down. Gates nods. So you had no way of knowing that on December 10th, the day you witnessed Anna having an emotional breakdown, she'd just been informed that her mother was refusing all further treatment, and was, in fact, preparing to die? Chelsea's eyes widen, and I hear the intake of breath in the courtroom. No. No, I had no idea. Gates turns back to Judge Von Koppel with a frown. Far from being a violent fight between Miss Chevalier and the victim, as Detective Decker would have you believe, what Miss Day witnessed was the perfectly natural reaction of a girl facing the devastating loss of a parent. Any outburst was a result of grief, not violent rage. The judge nods. Noted. I feel her eyes on me, all of the rest of them too. Watching, judging, speculating. Wondering what I felt and how I took the news. The truth is, I can't remember, not clearly. It's smudged with grief and rage and pure, dark disappointment, as if I'm staring at an out-of-focus photograph taken on a gray, rainy afternoon. There are only glimpses left now, the way my mother didn't even have the courage to tell me, my father's gaze sliding to look at the wall behind me when he broke the news. She'd given up. On herself, on me. It would have been different if she'd been terminal, even late stage, but the doctor said there was a 40% chance that another round of chemo would work. 40%. That was almost half. A half chance of beating it again, a half chance at life. With me. And instead, she gave up. Said it was unnatural, that she didn't want the chemicals in her body over and over again. Said that it might work this time, but it would only come back again. Said that this was her time, and that she wanted to go gracefully, with dignity and love. Except there was nothing graceful about the way she wasted away, a thin skeleton dwarfed by covers and cushions and bathrobes, sitting propped and delicate in bed. Nothing dignified about catheters and bags full of urine, and yellowed skin, and choking pain. Nothing loving about choosing to leave me. I sit, silent, as they discuss my dead mother, my grief, my desperation. I dig my fingernails into my palms, and wonder when this will ever end. After the fight, they put me back in isolation, saying it's for my own safety, but I know, this is for their sake, not mine. They don't care that I got hurt in here, only that it makes them look bad, makes me more sympathetic to the outside world, maybe. So they take away what little freedom I could pretend I still had, and condemn me to silence, and dark nights, and long days with nothing to do but think. Slowly, my strength drains away, my earlier resolve and determination waning under the brutal onslaught of day after day of loneliness. Those bleak thoughts I've pushed away come creeping back, whispering in the night, slipping their cold arms around my body and their slim fingers around my throat, until the panic is so fierce I double over where I stand, hardly breathing. I never realized what a privilege it was to get up and leave my cell in the mornings. Now they bring me all my meals, delivered on hard plastic trays, and take me to use the showers late in the morning once everyone else has already had their turn. I still get my few hours in the exercise yard, Gates and my father saw to that, but now I'm escorted out by 2 guards to a thin strip of land on the far side of the prison, divided from the others by barbed wire and barricades, away from the entertainment of the pickup basketball games and slouching, sullen cliques. The guy from the American Embassy, Lee, is my only friend. He visits almost every day, bringing me mindless magazines and books to fill the empty hours, a new pillow to try to cheer me, and an old iPod loaded with songs he thinks I'd like, to drown the dark silence and screaming of my bad dreams. He gives me updates on the case, and Gates's new ideas for trial strategy, going over my statements with me for hours and comparing them to the official police transcripts he managed to obtain from his new contact at the precinct. He listens patiently, taking notes, creasing his forehead in a thoughtful frown as he looks for any new angle or possibility to prove my innocence. Could Tate have left the bedroom while I was in the shower? Did I mention to anyone else about Juan following us back to the house? What about Nicholas? Did he make any threatening comments, or jokes that could be seen as creepy and aggressive? Sometimes it's not about proving you didn't do it. He tells me when I throw the pages down, frustrated after poring over Chelsea's and Max's and AK's interrogation transcripts all week. Sometimes, you just have to create reasonable doubt. They don't have hard evidence, he reminds me. They just have circumstantial things, and Decker's wild theories.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, that's what they have to prove.
But we won't let them. I lean back in my seat, exhausted. I'm sleeping even worse now, every click and rattle echoing through the isolation wing.
How can you be so sure?
Lee gives me a quiet smile, his brown eyes soft but resolute. I just am. But I can't accept that, not when it feels like everyone in my life has turned out to have some other agenda, a hidden reason for making me say or do what they want. No, I mean it, I tell him. Why are you here? You said it yourself, the embassy doesn't want anything to do with me. Aren't you risking a lot, going against them? Lee looks down. I guess I just want to help. You're stuck in here alone, and what they're saying about you. Why don't you believe them? I ask, insistent. Everyone else does, even people I thought were my friends. You don't even know me, and you're saying you believe me for sure. Lee pauses. He's weighing something, I can tell, and when he looks up, there's something tired in his expression. My sister, this happened to her. Not murder, he adds quickly. Drugs. I wait, and after another moment, he explains. She was backpacking down in South America after college, he explains. It was 8 years ago. She wanted to see the beaches, and the jungle, Aztec ruins, you know? He smiles faintly, and I can see how close they are, that affectionate sibling bond born of shared bedrooms and childhood fighting and all those other tiny moments that add up to something solid and unbreakable. She was staying in youth hostels, met all kinds of people. They traveled together, he continued. And I guess someone slipped something in her bag, because they pulled her out of line in customs in Brazil, found close to half a pound of cocaine rolled up in one of her shirts. She never touched drugs, he says, looking up at me, emphatic. Barely even had a beer. I used to tease her, you know, because she was so straight edge. He stops, a shadow slipping over his face. What happened? I ask, even though I already know it can't be anything good. He looks at the floor. They charged her, locked her up in some hellhole prison. She didn't speak any Portuguese, and my parents. It took them weeks before anyone let us in to see her. We got a lawyer, but the trial was a sham, and that much cocaine. ... They found her guilty of trafficking. Lee says quietly. 10-year sentence. My heart clutches in my chest. She was stuck down there for 3 years before we managed to get her out on appeal. Lee meets my eyes, pained.
3 years in that place.
He shakes his head. She's back home now, she got married, had a kid. But it changed her. She'll never get those years back, all because they just washed their hands of her. Like she didn't matter. Nobody fought for her. He stops and looks away, embarrassed. I guess, I figure if I can help stop that from happening to you. I swallow, chilled. Thank you, I say, my voice coming out a broken whisper. For trying, for believing in me. Lee manages a smile, reaching again for the files. Back to work, he says, as if embarrassed by his confession. I was thinking, we should try to do something about all these biased reports on the news shows. I know your old lawyer didn't want you making any comment, but right now, you're getting slammed, and I don't like how it might look to a judge. Maybe we should do an interview, he suggests, here in prison. Pick an American network, let you tell your side of the story. I hear his words, but they barely register. Instead, I'm still caught in the horror of his sister's story. A girl like me, a case like mine, far from home, adrift in a foreign legal system, and she was found guilty. Abandoned. Left to rot. 10 years. Even 6 months in this place has been unbearable, but year after year after year stretching into the distant black future. Now, for the first time, I wonder if this is how my mother felt. If cancer was her prison, the chemo treatments, torture. I understand it. I would rather die. The interview. Just lift your head, just a little more. Okay, perfect. A bright bulb flashes in my face, blinding me, and the woman holding a gadget near my face takes another reading. Less on the blues, she yells across the room at the guy fixing the lighting rig. Let's try it again. Another light flashes, this time leaving dark circles hovering in the air in front of my eyes. I blink, disoriented. The woman clicks again and then nods briskly. Okay, we've got it. Don't move. She directs that last part to me, before hurrying away. I look around. Where would I even go? I'm sitting in the prison cafeteria, except the plastic tables and mealtime madness is gone, replaced with chaos of a different kind. Spotlights, sound cables, boom mics and cameras. The room is a flurry of noise and activity, and it's all I can do after so many silent, still days just to watch, drinking it all in. People, regular people, chatting brightly, checking clipboards, scurrying around with papers and coffee cups and reels of cable. I feel like my mind just got an electric shock, jolted awake after so many weeks spent numb and drifting, asleep. Let me give you a touch-up. The makeup lady materializes, holding a tray of pots and brushes. She's already spent 30 minutes dabbing at me with foundation and mascara, now she dips a blusher brush into some loose powder and dusts at my face. I know it seems like a lot, she chats, smiling and friendly. But these lights get crazy hot, we don't want any shine. I smile back hesitantly. For all the bustle and activity, most people have stayed away from me, orbiting at a safe distance, as if I'm surrounded by an invisible force field. I guess a prison jumpsuit and handcuffs will do that to you. I'd hoped I'd be getting regular clothes, like the ones I wore for my hearing, but the show insisted on keeping me in my prison gear, and filming in here, with the wire visible on the window, and metal bars instead of walls. They want to show the reality of my everyday life, they told Gates and my dad, but if that was true, we'd be filming the interview in my isolation cell, crammed into the tiny room with the camera guy balancing over the steel-open toilet. Are you nervous? The makeup lady chats, still dusting powder on my face. I nod, embarrassed. Don't be, she reassures me. You'll do great. Just keep looking at her, and try to ignore the cameras. Don't cover her bruises. A sharp southern voice cuts through the noise, and suddenly, there she is, striding toward us on blue patent heels, a paper bib fixed around her neck, and curlers still resting in her blonde bobbed hair. Clara Rose. On TV, she's larger than life, but in the flesh, she's short, tiny and compact in a bright pink Chanel suit and blue eyeshadow. I told you, nothing on the face, she scolds the makeup lady, snatching the brush away. She's been rotting in jail the past 3 months, not competing in the Junior Miss America pageant. The makeup woman cringes and quickly begins blotting at my face. Clara looks at me and suddenly breaks into a wide, honey-sweet smile. Anna, it's so great to finally meet you, she coos. And thank you so much for agreeing to take part in this. You've been so brave, it's time America got to hear your side of the story. She holds out her hand, and reluctantly, I shake it. Thank you for having me, I reply politely. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to sit down earlier, she says, and beams at me with dazzlingly white teeth. But I'm sure we'll, Kenny, no. She suddenly barks, looking up at where the lighting guy is fixing the lamps. What did I tell you about washing me out with the yellow? She strides off toward him, her stilettos tap-tapping on the dull linoleum floors. I exhale slowly, watching her walk away. It wasn't my choice to do the interview, or that it be broadcast as a special extended exclusive edition of The Clara Rose Show. After all the things she said about me, I figured she would be the last person we'd go to, but Lee argued that was the exact reason we need her to do the profile. All of the news channels back home are painting me in a bad light, but Clara's the worst, hammering her cold-blooded killer theories almost every night of the week with so-called experts and Akshay's swaggering guest spots. If we can get her to at least present the possibility that I'm innocent, then maybe people will sit up and start paying attention, petition the American government to get involved, put pressure on the Dutch to throw out the case. It's a long shot, I know, but they say it could make all the difference. Decker has been playing the press like a pro, leaking photos of me out partying, slipping them information about Elise's body, the beach house, Tate's affair. He holds court on the front steps of the precinct, talking about justice and morality, and how he won't let outsiders ruin the peaceful tranquility of his home island. I've sat here in prison, silent, for long enough. Now I need to tell my side of the story. You ready for this? Lee comes over with Gates, who looks bewildered at all this activity. I take a deep breath. I guess. Just remember what we talked about, Gates adds, serious. Take your time, speak slowly, and ask for breaks if you feel overwhelmed. They're going to edit this together later, so it's fine to stop and then start again, if you get flustered. And don't be afraid to show your feelings, Lee interrupts. She's been trying to paint you as this robot, a sociopath, and we know that's not true. It's okay if you need to cry. But don't get angry, Gates is quick to caution. Don't raise your voice, or ask about her coverage, you need to keep this focused on the facts. What happened to Elise, what Decker's doing to you now? I nod again, already worn out. You'll do great, Lee reassures me, squeezing my arm in a comforting gesture. We believe in you. I smile back, glad that he's here. With Dad still gone in Boston, Lee and Gates are my only link to the outside world, the only people on my side. All righty. The older producer guy reappears. We're good to get started. Mr. Gates, why don't you and your friend come watch from the hallway, where we have the monitors set up? Lee looks to me. I nod, it's okay, I'll be fine. Like I said, he pats me again, just tell the truth. They follow the producer out, and soon the mess of cables and stands has been tidied to the back of the room, leaving an unobstructed view from the cameras past the lunch table I'm seated at, back through the bars of the entrance and down the prison hall. Somebody fixes a tiny microphone to my jumpsuit collar and positions the extra boom mic overhead. Then Clara takes a seat beside me, her hair now perfectly styled, her lipstick bright. She's checking note cards, her lips moving as she murmurs under her breath. Sound good?
She asks in a regular tone.
Check. Comes the reply. I blink, but the lights are dazzling, and as hot as the makeup woman told me they'd be. Just ignore the cameras, Clara tells me with that same honey-sweet tone. She smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes, they watch me, shrewd and darting. And try not to mumble. Speak clearly, or we'll have to retake the shot. I feel my nerves kick, a flutter in my stomach. Are we ready? The voice comes again. Okay, rolling in 3, 2, 1. ... Quote. Clara's face smooths. She faces the camera, somber and caring. Tonight, we take you behind the scenes of the notorious Aruba Correctional Institute to bring you an exclusive interview with Anna Chevalier. Locked up, far from home. Accused of her best friend's murder. We get a glimpse into this young woman's mind, and ask the questions that need answering, right here on The Clara Rose Show. The questions are simple, at first. We go over the same things I told Decker in my interrogations. The background for our trip, how we spent those first few days on the island, when we finally realized something was wrong and found the body that night. I pick my words carefully, hesitant at first, always reminding myself that Clara's warm sympathy is an act for the cameras, not any real concern. And your time here in prison? She asks, furrowing her brow. I can see, you've had some problems. I touch my face automatically. I was attacked, I say softly. It's hard. My dad, he does what he can to come visit, but being alone all this time. I just want to go home. Clara nods. Now, can you talk about Elise at all? I know there have been lots of rumors that the two of you were fighting, that you had a destructive friendship. Quote. It's not true. We were best friends, I tell her. We did everything together, and yes, we had some disagreements, but they were over little things. Like what? Just girl stuff, you know? I shrug. She was always borrowing my clothes and then not giving them back, that drove me crazy. And she hated it when I would use her makeup without asking. But what about her relationship with Tate Dempsey? Clara asks, inching forward in her seat. She was going behind your back with your boyfriend. I didn't know, I say firmly. But if you had? I didn't. But now that you do. Quote. Clara changes tack. How do you feel about it? What would you say to her? I blink a moment, thrown. I don't know. You haven't thought about it? She presses me. You've been here, locked in prison for 2 months now. What would you say to Tate, if you had the chance? He hasn't come to see you, has he? Why not? Cut. The voice comes from behind the bank of dazzling lights. Clara snaps her head around. What the hell's the problem? The producer comes rushing forward. Nothing about the Dempsey boy, his lawyers made it clear. Are you kidding me? Clara exclaims. He shrugs helplessly. You know what we went through with the libel writ. I can't take the risk, they'll have us back in court. She rolls her eyes, smoothing back her hair. Fine. Do I need more powder? Debbie? The makeup artist trots back over with her brush, but I stay focused on the brief conversation I just overheard. Libel? Back in court? Is this why Tate's barely been mentioned on Clara's show? I always figured it was strange. After all, he's the one person who admitted to lying, and to being back at the house with Elise that afternoon, but he's still barely had a bad word said about him in the press. And this must be why. The Dempsey money has bought him his privacy, Ellingham working round the clock to protect the family's good name. But not mine. Okay, Clara waves the crew away and turns back to me. Let's pick it up. The cameraman silently counts down, and Clara brightens on cue. We've seen a lot of, well, I've got to be honest with you, pretty troubling photos over the last few weeks. You girls out partying, drinking. What do you say to claims you led Elise astray, and pulled her into this dangerous behavior? I take a deep breath. It's not true. We liked to go out together, to parties, like most of the other kids in school. But this wasn't just a regular sleepover, good, clean fun, Clara interrupts. There was drinking, college boys. Quote. We went out, I admit, and maybe we went down some bad roads, but that was Elise. She loved to have a good time. She was the outgoing one, you know? She was always looking for an adventure. So she was the one initiating the drinking, the drug taking. Quote. No, that's not what I mean. I stumble over my words, I just. It wasn't one-sided, like people are saying. She did bad stuff too, it wasn't all my idea. So what would you tell her parents, if you had the chance? Clara leans in again. What would you say to these fine folks, who've lost their daughter in the most tragic, violent way? I blink. I don't know. Why don't you try? Clara urges gently. I slowly turn, and look at the camera, at the empty gaping lens, with its distant reflection of myself. I open my mouth, hesitant. I'm sorry, she's gone. There's not a single day that goes by that I don't think about her. I can feel myself choking up, the glare of the lights hot on my face, Clara's expression so fixed and hungry. But all I can think about is Elise dancing around the kitchen in the beach house that day, bright and free and alive. I'm sorry, I sob, tears coming fast now. I'm sorry I wasn't looking out for her, that I couldn't stop this. I miss her too, I add, pleading. She was like a sister to me, and now I'll never get her back. My eyes blur with tears. I wait for the producer to call to cut, for them to stop rolling, but nothing comes. They keep filming, watching me weep, counting the long seconds as my body shakes with grief. This is what they wanted, I realize, too late. They don't care about my story, or presenting the other side. They just want to see me crying, and begging, and broken. They want a show. Before. Crushed by an elephant or trampled by bulls? Trampled. You'd go quicker. Every hair in your body plucked out one by one or all at once. Shit. All at once. I'd get doped up on painkillers and get it over and done with. You? God no, can you imagine, a bikini wax all over your body? You're such a pussy, you can't deal with any pain. Remember you cried that time Elena did your eyebrows? Did not. I have a very sensitive forehead. OWW. Pass me that. Drowning or gunshot? Depends. Where's the bullet hit? Stomach. It's slow and painful and you bleed to death. Drowning, then. It only takes a few minutes, right? Yeah, but you're suffocating. And then your eyeballs explode. Bullshit. It's true. I saw it on some Discovery Channel show. The pressure builds up and squeezes all your insides out. You're so dumb. That's only if you're really deep, diving or something. Or in space. Would you still bleed to death in space? What? You're crazy. Shut up, I'm serious. There's no gravity, right? So why would the blood come out? See? Why are we even talking about this? It's morbid. You're telling me you haven't thought about it? Come on, how would you do it? Pills, I guess. There's a bunch left from when. Mom. I wouldn't even feel it happen. Coward. You've got to feel it, all the way to the end. It shouldn't be a get-out-of-jail-free card, you know? You should have to earn it. So how? A knife, I guess. Slice my wrists, bleed out all over the new cream carpets. Give my mom something to complain about. Elise. What? It's the point. One final fuck you. But you wouldn't. No. I'm just messing with you. Besides, who'd hold your hand for Elena at the salon if I'm gone? Day 196. Elise's mother, Judy, comes to visit me in prison the week before the trial begins. I've already taken my sleeping pill, so I drag, disoriented, as the guard leads me down the hallway, past the interview rooms, and up into a part of the prison I've never been before. Where are we going? I ask, confused, but he doesn't reply, doesn't say a word at all as we climb a flight of stairs. There are no bars here, I notice, looking around. The walls are painted a soft peach, the flooring, polished and new. If I didn't know any better, I would think it a school or office building, someplace productive, where things were made and minds molded, not the opposite, a place that takes time away from us, day by day. He knocks, once, on a door at the end of the hallway. It opens, and I'm ushered inside the room, an office. After so long with the basic plastic furniture and metal fixtures bolted to the floor, it's a shock to see the decor here. A plush rug, bookcases, framed pictures on the wall. Warden Eckhart sits behind a wide wooden desk. He gestures for me to step farther into the room. My heart leaps with expectation, just as I hear a gasp behind me. I turn. Judy is sitting on a narrow sofa, her hands folded in her lap. She rises, staring at me with horror. Anna. The word trails away. Judy? My voice tilts upward, a flight of hope. What's going on? Did they drop the charges? I look around, but there's no sign of Gates or my dad. Wouldn't they have called them in, if I was being released? Where's my dad? I demand. Did something happen? Is he okay? Oh, yes, he's fine. Judy blinks, her face falling. I'm sorry, I didn't think. This is just a quick visit, the warden interjects. He looks between us. I'll give you some privacy. He exits with the guard, leaving us alone. I don't move. They didn't put me in handcuffs, I realize, absently rubbing my wrists. This is as free as I've been in weeks. Oh, Anna, sweetheart. Quote. Judy sinks back down onto the sofa. Look at you. I don't know what to say, so I walk slowly to the other chair and sit. It's the first time she's spoken to me since my arrest. She's never visited me, or written, or even looked in my direction during the bail hearing or our pre-trial motions. I've seen her in the courtroom, her head bent, holding on to Charles's hand as if to save her from drowning. I know how she feels, but I haven't had that luxury, someone to cling on to stay above the surface. I don't understand, I say softly, my fingertips tracing the fabric of the cushions, rich in brocade. Why? Question mark. Why are you here? Judy looks down. I guess. I had to see you, before it all begins. The reality of the situation hovers between us in the small room, full of unspoken words like death, murder, killing, accused. I can't say them out loud any more than she can right now, so I don't say a word, I just study her, feeling strangely detached, as if there's more space between us than just these few short feet. A canyon, an ocean. Her face is worn and tired, even beneath the slick of makeup, and she's wearing one of her usual pantsuits in crisp navy, but it hangs around her thin frame, draped and oversized. I have to fight the urge to go sit beside her on the sofa, to hug her casually the way I've done so many times before. She left me too. I'm not supposed to be here. Judy finally speaks, giving me a nervous smile. Charles, he told me not to come. The lawyers, too. I don't reply. There was a time when she was more of a mother to me than my own, somebody to ask how my day in school was, how things were going with Tate. I wound up crashing at Elise's most Friday nights through last spring and summer. It made sense, when we were out until dawn, but the truth was, Saturday mornings at her house were my favorite place in the world. Judy would make cinnamon French toast, and confiscate Elise's cell phone, and we would all wind up sitting around the table out in their glass-covered conservatory, drinking English tea and sharing the new fashion magazines that arrived with the newspapers. Elise always rushed her food down and then demanded to be released, like it was a terrible burden to be trapped in such tranquil domesticity, but those brief mornings held a sweetness for me that I can still taste, even trapped in my tiny cell, with Saturdays bringing nothing more than an extra apple on my breakfast tray, grapefruit juice instead of orange. I wait for Judy to explain why she's come, but she just sits there, looking anywhere but directly at me. Then she seems to remember something, and rummages in her expensive leather bag. Are you hungry? It's late, I reply, still confused. They bring dinner at 6. I brought you. She holds out a bar of chocolate to me, covered in a familiar blue wrapper. It's that Swiss make, I remembered it was your favorite. I pause a beat, then slowly reach out to take it. Thank you, I say politely. I remember, when I came back from that conference in Zurich, Judy gives me a weak smile, and brought all that candy. You girls nearly made yourselves sick, eating it in one night. I nod. I don't know what to do with the chocolate, but I doubt they'll let me take it back to my cell, so I slowly unwrap it, sliding my finger beneath the crisp paper wrapping and then scoring my fingernail down the crease of the foil. The bar breaks with a snap. The candy is smooth on my tongue, creamy and sweeter than the American brands that Lee used to bring me. I offer her a square. She takes it. They had a memorial, at the school, Judy says hesitantly. There was one after the break, but this was for the unveiling. They built a lovely fountain in the side courtyard. They said that was where you all liked to sit, at lunch. In the shade there. Judy stares at the piece of chocolate, still in her hand. Charles wants me to start a scholarship in her name. Fund someone's tuition. Or maybe a charity foundation. To honor her. Elise would have loved that, I murmur, sarcastic. Then I stop, horrified. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. No, you're right. Judy meets my eyes and then, to my amazement, she begins to laugh, a tiny twitch at her lips that spreads until she's gasping, a hollow sound ringing out in the small room. It's all wrong. I kept thinking, all through the ceremony, that Elise would hate it. Judy shakes her head. You know they had the choir sing that song, that awful one about being in the arms of angels. ... Quote. Sarah McLachlan? I ask. She nods, trying to control herself. They were all so sad, and all I could imagine was Elise making that face of hers, you know the one, where she'd just roll your eyes at you. As if you were beyond saving, I finish, and she deserved a medal just putting up with you. That's the one. Judy smiles at me, shaking her head. I swear, I got that look every day of her life. She takes a tissue from her bag and dabs at her eyes, the laughter fading away. Nobody knew her like us. She says it quietly, but I feel the words strike through me. Everyone comes around saying what an angel she was, how perfect, how precious. But they don't know. Nobody does, except you. Her eyes meet mine again, aching and lost. This is why she's here, I understand it now. This is her only way to feel close to Elise, the memory of her, as she really was. Not the girl on the front page, or the glowing paragraph in her obituary. But the daughter who screamed in a rage because Judy had looked at her phone again, the friend who curled, sandwiched between us on the couch those late nights when Judy got back from the hospital and found us, still awake, watching bad reality TV and eating Doritos. We were poisoning ourselves, she'd warn us, plucking the remote and bag of chips from our hands, but inevitably she'd wind up tucked under the blanket too, interrupting to ask who this one was, and why was she mad at the other guy. I'm her only link to Elise now. We're co-conspirators in the crime of loving her daughter. She hated me. Judy's voice cracks. We fought, right before she came away. Did she tell you that? I shake my head. She was threatening to defer college, Judy says, and clutches her tissue tightly. Go out to California, or Europe, or volunteer in some godforsaken tribal village. Not that she would have done it, Judy adds. You know she couldn't bear to be without her creature comforts. But still, I let her get to me, every time. She always knew just the hurtful things to say. ... Quote. She trails off for a moment, then shakes her head. We were screaming, all night. And then I went to work in the morning. I didn't even say goodbye. Judy swallows back her tears, but her hand shakes. The last time I saw her, and I didn't even wait to say goodbye. She looks at me, plaintive, wanting something. Absolution. I exhale, suddenly clear. I can give her that much, at least. It doesn't matter, I tell her gently. She loved you. I know she didn't like to show it, but none of the fights, none of that matters. You know that, you have to know. Judy's eyes meet mine, hopeful this time. I just hate to think of her. ... If she thought I didn't care. ... Quote. No, I promise. She loved you, both of you. She didn't even mention your fight, I reassure her. She didn't give it another thought. She was having fun. You know how she is. I pause. Wes, I correct softly. Judy nods, and some of the tension in her body seems to ease. She takes a long breath, her expression smoothing out, peaceful now. Thank you, she says softly, and rises to her feet. I blink. But. You're going? I should get back. Judy pulls on her jacket. You're not going to help? My voice twists. But, if you talk to the judge, if you explain to him that you know me, and I would never. ... You could do something. It's out of my hands now. Judy looks away, and I see for the first time, the flicker of doubt in her expression, the shadow drifting in the back of her eyes. Doubt. It strikes me like a dull blow, blood ringing in my ears as if from far away. My stomach drops, my body turns ice cold. If Judy can doubt me, if she can think I'm capable of murder, after all the time we've spent together, then what hope do I have in court tomorrow, with Decker snapping at my heels, and the judge sitting so icy and remote? I push the fear down, desperate. You didn't ask me, I say. She glances up, caught. You didn't ask me if I killed her. I thought it was because she believed me, unquestioning. She wouldn't be here otherwise, would she? Alone, bringing candy and memories? She has to believe me. Judy shrinks back, looking anywhere but me. Anna, let's not. No. Ask me, I demand. Do it. Judy pauses, as if gathering her strength. She takes a breath, and then looks at me straight on, with fearful eyes. Did you kill her? No. My voice breaks. I reach for her, pleading. No, I promise you. I never. ... You know I loved her. It's all a lie. Then everything will be okay. Judy cups my cheek for a moment, then steps back. Just tell the truth and be yourself. It'll all work out. My mouth drops open, helpless, as she knocks against the door. The guard steps inside. This time, he has the cuffs waiting. Judy, please. My voice breaks. She smells of vanilla, and family, and lazy weekends wrapped in fluffy bathrobes and somebody else's slippers. She smells like home. Look after yourself, sweetheart, Judy says, not meeting my eyes, and then she's gone. Now. She was wrong, they all were. Telling the truth doesn't make a difference, nor does being true to yourself. If it did, I wouldn't be here now, awaiting the verdict that's going to decide the next 20 years of my life. The next 20 birthdays and Christmases, the next 21st days of summer, and last nights of fall. 1,040 Mondays. 7,300 days of waking up here, penned in under an endless blue sky. Except I won't. I can't. Looking back now, I see how naive we all were. I stepped into that courtroom believing I'd have a fair shot, a chance to state my case and be heard, the way you're supposed to. But the real truth is, it's all a performance. The trial is no different from the Clara Rose show, in its way, only instead of a film studio with lights and cameras, we have the courtroom as our stage. The lawyers and witnesses are all actors, the judges are audience, and whoever can sell their version of the script, make you believe it, whether it's fiction or fact, they're the one who wins. It's that simple. Evidence is just a prop, you can ignore it and look the other way, and even the script doesn't matter when some supporting actor can improvise their scenes and steal the whole show. Maybe if I'd known that, I could have played my part better, maybe even stopped it from getting this far at all. I guess it's too late for that now. Decker knew it, though, he knew it from the start. What else was he doing, by leaking police reports and crime scene photos weeks before even the trial date was set. He was setting the stage for his story, like a movie trailer cut with the juiciest scenes so people would go in already expecting the big showdown, anticipating the final twist. Watching him in court was like watching a conductor, like the time Elise's parents dragged us out to the symphony. There was a tiny man up above the orchestra pit, waving and swirling that baton, painting whole landscapes in the air with every breath, making the music lift and fall, steering us effortlessly through the song. Decker wasn't half as elegant as that tuxedoed man, but his power was just as strong. He carefully steered the performance, bringing in each new section of the chorus with a well-timed flourish, a scandalous photo, words of a fight, testimony of my anger and partying. ... He led our audience deftly through the script along his chosen path so that they would end the show with only one obvious conclusion in their minds: my guilt. The curtain's down now, but I won't forget so easily, the performance never ends. Clara Rose show transcript. Clara. And a few times, even outright lying, or at least contradicting a lot of the testimony and statements we've already heard about the case. Video clip. Anna, we went out. And maybe we went down some bad roads, but that was Elise. She loved to have a good time. She was the outgoing one, you know? She was always looking for an adventure. End video clip. Clara. Well, Martin, we've had time now to go over the footage, exclusive footage, by the way, exclusive to the Clara Rose show, so what's your take on this? Is Anna telling the truth here, or is this just the latest in a long series of lies from the accused killer? Martin. Looking at the clips we've seen, I've got to say, the thing that strikes me is the complete lack of personal responsibility. Time and again, she blames everybody else for the situation she's in. Her friends wanted to go on vacation. Her boyfriend told her to lie about their alibis. The prosecutor has some kind of personal vendetta. Clara. Even blaming the victim herself. Martin. Exactly. And seeing this, you've really got to ask yourself, is she just trying to pass the buck, or does this go much deeper, to an almost pathological detachment from reality? Clara. Now, I've got body language expert Heidi Attenberg on the line, author of several books on the subject. What does this footage tell you, Heidi? Heidi. Thanks for having me, Clara. First of all, if you look at her posture during these answers, it's very composed, controlled. Her hands are folded. She doesn't twitch or move around at all. This tells us she's a very self-possessed person, someone who likes control. Clara. Too controlled, perhaps? I mean, this is a girl who's been locked up in prison for months now. I have to admit, I was expecting her to be more raw, a lot more emotional. ... Even before the cameras started rolling, she sat quietly, barely speaking, like she was analyzing the scene. Heidi. Right, and then when she does have a more emotional moment, here, where she's talking to the parents and she starts crying, it's almost too emotional, coming after all that calm. Clara. You're saying she's faking it? Heidi. It's certainly possible. When people cry, for real, it's an almost involuntary action, they just can't help it. In the footage, if you keep your eye on Anna's hands. Clara. We're highlighting it on screen here. Heidi. They stay folded, again, very composed. We'd expect to see her touch her face, wipe her eyes, maybe. Clara. That's fascinating. Now, can we backtrack a moment and show you some footage from before the interview? This is background roll of Anna talking to her legal team. She's got her lawyer there, and I want to show you this. Anna, getting very friendly with a young man we've identified as Lee Evans, age 23. He's a junior consul at the American Embassy in the Netherlands. We contacted the embassy for comment, and all they'll tell us is that Evans is not in Aruba in any official capacity. So, Heidi, what do we think? Is this a friend? A secret boyfriend? What does their body language say to you? Heidi. Whoever he is, they have a close relationship. You can see the physical affection when he touches her, the way she smiles at him. Clara. I would say he looks smitten with her. Heidi. Definitely not just a platonic relationship. Clara. Well, then, I've got to ask, what does this tell us about Anna Chevalier? I don't know about you, but if I'm in prison, awaiting a murder trial, boys are going to be the last thing on my mind. But here she is, apparently flirting with a young man, in plain view of everyone. Martin. And if I can add, we know there was confusion about her and her boyfriend, Tate Dempsey, and their alibis, which were later recanted. Anna's always claimed he was the one who told her to lie, but looking at this tape, now I've got to wonder, this is a girl with considerable feminine power. She's got this new guy under her spell, even from behind prison bars. Getting a loyal boyfriend to lie for her would be easy. Clara. And we'll get back to that later. But quickly, Martin, before the break, let's talk about her bruises. A lot of people were shocked to see them. Martin. Right, and I know this prison fight, has gotten her a lot of sympathy from some quarters. Clara. Even thought the prison authorities have assured me she's being kept in isolation now, away from other inmates. Martin. I think seeing her like this, up close for the first time, has really driven home the reality of the situation. I mean, whether she's falsely accused or not, this is a young girl, a teenage girl locked up in a foreign prison with women, all kinds of criminals, most of them older than her. Clara. Now, Anna says she was the one who was attacked, but the other girl in the incident, a Johanna Pearson, she says Anna is the one who started it. That Anna flew at her in a rage, well, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? We've actually got some photos released to us, showing Johanna's injuries after the fight. Well, clearly, it looks like Anna got off lightly here. Martin. Wow. I mean, that's some serious damage. The wounds to her face, a broken nose. Clara. And the hospital records say Anna broke 2 of this other girl's ribs. Martin. I've got to say, this is... This changes a lot for me. If Anna can do this with her bare hands, then I bet I'm not the only one wondering, what would she be capable of with a knife in her hand? Clara. We'll be right back, after this message.